When you see issues like this playing out, and in fact we've also got other stories of the reincarnation of Jesus in the likes of Australia, I mean, what are your thoughts? What does the church have to say about this?
I think we should be very cautious about this, because I don't think we can just take any of these claims, because there's been many of them, seriously. I think we need to be very, very careful. I think there needs to be some sort of investigation, but also think we need to look at what's happening and the scriptural evidence, the tradition of the church, all those types of things, to try and establish whether this is something we ought to pay attention to.
Okay, what concerns you the most about the specific story? And we're talking off air, and you said the word reincarnation in itself is problematic.
Yes, because Jesus rose from the dead and Jesus is living. Reincarnation implies there's a death and that you come back in another form. Well, we don't believe that. Reincarnation is not the same as resurrection. I also think the fact that families are seen to be split, that this guy is taking money. There's a widow, as we saw in the report, who says she's got nothing. She's been left by her husband, so a widow in effect has got nothing left to live on. I think that's problematic, that children are being taken away from school. The biblical evidence that Jesus speaks about when he's going to come back. I mean, all those things don't seem to tie up to me. And we're also expecting the second coming. We're expecting Jesus to come in a different way to the way that he came the first time round. And this seems to emulate very much the pattern, or try to emulate the pattern of Jesus' first coming. He's gathering disciples. He's kind of said he spent many years fighting off the devil, maybe trying to parallel his life with the life of Jesus.
In terms of an investigation, I mean, you were alluding to it a little earlier. Who should be intervening here? Should you be intervening? Should the church be intervening?
I think that religious bodies in the area need to make a statement about that. People who have been on the ground and have spoken to people and understand what is going on there. But I think if children are being taken away from school, it even might be something that the civil authorities need to deal with. I mean, I heard a report of a 12 or 14-year-old that was taken away from school and being sent to recruit other children from school to join this group. So I think even the civil authorities may need to come into this.
I mean, what's fascinating here is that things like this can actually gain momentum very quickly. I mean, someone that is willing to give their entire salary to this cause, essentially, and the 14-year-old person is willing to also recruit other people as well. Something needs to happen very quickly. I mean, how quickly can things escalate from here onwards, in your experience?
I mean, I think that things can escalate. I mean, I'm not sure. It might just be a phase. A couple of years ago, there was an issue in Benoni where someone claimed to see a vision and people flocked there. And it soon sort of died a death of its own when church authorities said, well, we can't say that this is something that is real or is reasonable. We distance ourselves from it. Then people suddenly thought about it again. So I think people on the ground there, church authorities there, need to look at this, need to make a statement, and hopefully they will give some insight.
Father, isn't this an indication of the fact that people are very desperate for something very concrete when it comes to spirituality in the country?
I think it is. I think it's a sign that people are searching for meaning, that there's a lot of unhappiness about certain things. There's a kind of spiritual malaise, maybe, whatever one wants to call it. And I think that people are hanging on to anything that they can get these days because we live in such a time of flux and difficulty and struggle. So these kinds of people seem to be the ticket out to that, of that. And so we've got to think of that as well, the social context from which this arises.
All right, thank you very much, Father, for your time. Much appreciated.
News that moves. eNCA.com.